Hi, my name's Mr. Andy, and I've got another encouragement for you guys today. Did you know that God desires a personal relationship with you? It's not necessarily just about the religion, but it's about the relationship with God. And one amazing tool that we have that can help develop that relationship is our prayer life. So many times we get stuck with, how do I pray? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. Maybe I'm not doing it good enough. Maybe God doesn't hear me because I'm not saying certain things. But ultimately, God desires that relationship with you. And relationship takes communication. So no different than it is in any other relationship with friends and family. The same thing applies to God, that we need to communicate with Him daily. Have you ever had so much on your mind, but there felt like there was nobody to talk to about it? Maybe you felt like you had something awesome and amazing happening in your life and you had nobody to share it with. Well, prayer does just that. Prayer gives us that opportunity to speak with God about the things that we're struggling with and about the things that are awesome in our lives, right? Prayer is just an ongoing conversation with God throughout the day. It's not just a 10-minute window of your day. It's not just 30 seconds here and there. It's not a check box that you just check off for your day that I got my prayer in today, but it's an ongoing conversation with God. I think oftentimes we skip past it because we don't really understand it. And sometimes, honestly, we overthink what prayer is. There's times where I know in my past, before I became fully devoted, that I wouldn't pray because I felt like there were certain words that I had to say. Like my prayers were getting sent up to heaven and they were going through some filter system. And if they checked off all the words that I said, that then they would be sent to God. And that's not how it is. We think that God doesn't hear our prayers because we don't use those certain words. We think that maybe sometimes He's too busy to hear our prayers. We think that He's got so much going on that how would He have time for us? But God desires that personal relationship with each and every one of us. Sometimes we even think that maybe we have to do all of the talking. And that's not always the case too. Just as important with talking to God is being quiet and listening to what God has to tell us too. Sometimes sitting there and listening for His voice in our life is just as important as it is saying the words to Him. And in Matthew 6, verses 5 through 8, it says this. It says, "And when you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by others. Truly I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." So it's not necessarily about the words that we say. It's not necessarily about doing everything a specific way for it to be sent to God. It just comes down to being in relationship with Him. And at the end there, in verse 8, it says, your Father knows what you need before you even say it. How awesome is that to know that before we even say our prayer, that God knows what we need, but He wants us to reach out to Him and to develop that relationship with Him. Jesus is here in the room with you. So sometimes we feel that God doesn't hear our prayer because He's so far away. Well, God is right here with you. One key that always helps me with my prayer is to treat it like God is sitting right there in the room with me. To speak to Him like I would speak to somebody who's sitting in the room. I'm not going to address somebody sitting right next to me, "Dear so-and-so." We overcomplicate it in that way. So if we talk to God like He's in the room, because He is, that's gonna help our prayer life out tremendously. And that's it.
Okay.
What you think?
That was just great.